Sometimes, when you're asking a diagnostic accuracy question for a systematic review, you find that authors report a lot more than your standard diagnostic accuracy statistics, like, sensitivity, specificity, etc. Sometimes, especially in cases where the reference test is known to not be really a gold standard or not so accurate, or in situations where a new test has been developed that actually may be or is suspected to be more accurate than the reference test. In those cases, you may get what is called a discrepant analysis. Now, the challenge, if you're extracting this information, is the discrepant analysis could be very, very important. You want to capture that information, but the challenge is a standard diagnostic accuracy extraction tool isn't really set up to gather those statistics very well. So what I'm going to show you is a way to have two different extraction sheets associated with or linked to each other in a particular project, so you're not having to re-enter design design details, all that sort of information twice, and as well have a flexibility with the entry structure. So you can see here that I've got a study. I've already created two extraction tools that are associated with two separate questions. So you can see what is the evidence of relative diagnostic accuracy to select diagnostic tests. C. difficile. This is clearly my diagnostic accuracy question, and I want you to pay attention. For this particular study, which is the Boynton, what I've done is I'm first going to answer my diagnostic accuracy question. I'm not going to select both my questions. My second question is really how the test agreement is affected by the sample characteristics. So the first one I click is this, and I want you to notice right up here in the extraction form I can see my diagnostic accuracy question. However, and so I would enter this in the way that I do all others, etc. for diagnostic accuracy. And you can see here when I pull the information up, it's pretty much what you would expect. But sometimes, in this study in particular, I have a discrepant analysis that does not fit the standard diagnostic accuracy structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my second question here, how is test agreement affected by sample characteristics, and I'm going to save it, and I want you to see what happens up in this extracting form. I save it, and what's going to happen is now I have a different extraction form that I've created. You can also see on this extraction form there are many less tabs. I've already entered all the information about the design, etc. of the study. I don't need to re-enter those. Okay, but what I do need to do is figure out a way to enter the information. I'm going to slide over to the study real quick, so you can see, and this is my marked up version. Here are the sensitivity, specificity, etc. Statistics for each of the different tests that were compared. Those were entered in my diagnostic accuracy extraction sheet, but I also have a summary of the patient clinical parameters and that these affected these affected whether or not the tests agree. And so I'm going to want to capture this information, but again, sensitivity, specificity, the standard diagnostic accuracy statistics structure of entry is not going to work for these. So I just wanted to give you a sense of that. Now I'm going to show you two different ways of entering that information, and which you choose depends on both your project and also on your project personnel. What is the most usable? What would your analysts find the most friendly? So I'm going to jump to arms, and you can see here that I have actually defined as arms each one of the discordant categories. So concordant positives, concordant negatives, discordant false positives, discordant false negatives, and as you can see that corresponds with my table 3, the columns. Then what I've done is under arms details, I set my sheet up so that it's going to repeat the arms. It's going to allow me to enter a separate answer for each one of my arms. And now what I've done is, in each case, I've got, for instance, the n of samples in each discrepant analysis category. You can see that corresponds to my first row. My second question, the age, that's right here, sex, etc. And so what I've done is I've created an extraction sheet such that each one of these questions is repeated for each one of my tests, and I can just enter that information. Now, this is fairly straightforward, and as you can see, it's just a cut and paste, copy, jump back, paste. Okay, but one of the challenges is this approach, while it's really pretty simple, you can run down, it's not terribly flexible between articles. Now, if you have a series of articles that report on the discrepant analysis in the same way, this is fine, and it's really pretty easy. I'm just scrolling down and pasting in. But I can't necessarily expect all of my studies to report all of the same, what are in a sense covariates. And so what I may need is a bit more flexibility. So I may not want to use this kind of data structure, but what I may want to use is my outcomes and results. If I use the second I'm about to show you, I wouldn't have all these repeated. In fact, I may not even need anything under study arm details. The second way I could basically set it up is that each one of my covariates becomes an outcome. I'm going to be reporting the outcomes for each covariate. And so you can see I've just started defining here each one of the outcomes, and I would do that in the same way I always do. The outcome title, tell when it's categorical continuous. This is diagnostic accuracy. I've just got baseline. It's essentially a cross-sectional study. So there's not much I need to do there. Then under results, what I would do is for each one of my covariates here, I can come down and I can pick up the n per group. And you can see I've already entered this information. I edited the measures, so I didn't need much at all. I just needed the value. And I entered that information in. I would do the same thing again for age. And because I've set up the discrepant analysis categories as my arms, you can see I've set it up just to be able to enter simply there. So what you would tell your extractors to do if they were using this format is to set the arms up with the different categories of discrepant analysis, and you can see also here I've got another that's non-toxigenic. So I've got the flexibility with the arms, define the outcomes as the covariates, running down here, and then I would just enter the results one at a time. So this is one strategy for entering information, a kind of richer set of information beyond just diagnostic accuracy statistics into your data extraction tool.